back to Distorted Opinions. I'm Kayla, and I'm joined by Quicia, and we had another moment. This has happened the last few times I've had Quicia on, where we start talking about something, and I go, boy, I should have started recording, because we basically just launched into a show with a topic here, and so we've been kind of riffing a little bit on some things, and now we're going to record and bring everybody else into the conversation, so to speak. But we were kind of talking a little bit about, I had my fantasy football draft with my former coworker, Paul, the other night. And if you've been following the show for a while, you may have heard the episode or seen the episode where we had Paul on last year, and he talked about when he lived in Seattle during the 90s at like the height of the grunge era. And that was a really awesome episode. He had some great stories. And I had talked to Paul about, I wanted to have him on at some point, because he was also a DJ and a concert promoter in Hawaii for a number of years. And I know he's got some stories from that too. But we somehow, after the draft ended, I was hanging out with Paul and his cousin Arthur, and we just started kind of talking about random things, and somehow got onto the topic of video games, and in particular Doom. And we had talked about how I've played the original Doom, but I've never seen or played the newer versions of the game. And that led Paul to pull up a video clip of a performance from the artists that recorded the soundtrack for one of the Doom games. And they were doing a show at some sort of a gaming awards event. And it was really cool music. And then Paul pulled up this compilation clip of all these gory scenes, and you hear the music in the background. I'm like, that's really cool music. So Quicia and I were talking, and I was like, I don't know if I necessarily want to do an episode on video game music right now, because we've done that a few times. And I also know that Matt and Ted are very passionate about that topic as well. So
I mean, I fall into that category too. So
right, we've had you on for I think 2 episodes on video games now. So, but it did lead us to talk a little bit about finding interesting music in places that you might not expect, or experiencing a type of music that you wouldn't have expected to experience through some avenue, like video game soundtracks, or seeing a group perform a song from a video game at some sort of an awards event. And I mean, I think that happens to me quite a bit, where I'll be like, I'll be watching a show, or I'll hear a commercial or something. And it happens a lot more now. Like these days, there are a lot more commercials that use well-known music. In fact, I don't remember that as much when I was younger. It seemed like commercials had very generic
jingles.
Yeah, basically. And now they're using music that you've probably heard on the radio before.
And artists, and actual artists. Like they're getting artists involved in the promotion of whatever it is.
True. Yeah. But like, and I was like, there was, oh goodness, I'd have to look up what the song was now, but I remember there was a commercial, I think it was for Lens Crafters a few years ago.
All things.
Yeah, and they had a song, and it's probably part of one of my summer playlists here. I haven't listened to it in forever. And I'd actually heard it before on Sirius XM, and then I hear it on this commercial, and I'm like, oh, I know that song. And that's happened a few times now. And I always feel like it's a little weird to be listening to it in the car, like especially in the summer if you got the windows down, and then people maybe think that you're listening to the music from the commercial as opposed to the other way around.
Right.
I don't know if that seems weird. I feel like it might be, but maybe that's just me. But I know you had said you'd kind of gotten into some more Eastern
some like
music.
Eastern inspired, I guess, music and those instruments, because I was watching a series of all things back 2000 something but I'm going to say this, and of course, there's going to be like a plethora of fans that are like, duh. On Nickelodeon, no less, they have, I mean, one of the greatest shows of all time. And we can debate that. We will debate that. Don't ever come at me and say this is not one of the greatest shows of all time. You will be put in your place. But Avatar: The Last Airbender was an animated series on Nickelodeon, and how they composed I want to say the finale episodes. In particular, there's this really awesome battle between two main opposing characters, and that whole sequence will give you chills, just because of the pacing of it. And if you understand the story of these two characters, one in particular, they manage to encapsulate so much emotion and feeling, but have that series is inspired by Eastern history and lore and mythology and actual martial arts practices, things that exist now. It's beautifully written, but for them to end this major pivotal fight scene, I'm gonna have to find it. I'm gonna say it's like the final Agni Kai is what it's called. But you listen to this and you're going to feel like, no, there is otherworldly, but it encapsulates a lot of the emotion. And if you follow that series the entire time, you're just, it feels like it's just like drums and strings. But it's not incredibly powerful. It's subtle. It's absolutely brilliant. So that led me into like this rabbit hole of that style of sound. And something that it's not like I listen to all the time, but there are times where I seek it out because I just want to experience that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I find like, I don't know, I find music in weird places, and we've talked about this on previous shows. Movies, not really. Like I've not seen a lot of movies.
Which is so interesting because you love shows.
Yeah, no, I but here's the thing about shows though. A lot of what I watch for the most part are old, like classic shows. And actually, so all right, this is related, but a slight maybe detour because it's not something that you can find anywhere, but I did get a chuckle out of it. So I watch Adam 12, the show from the 60s. I think it was the 60s or the 70s, Reed and Malloy. And if you listen to the first season of that show, anytime they roll up at a party or a bar or like any event that's supposed to be wild and chaotic, there's always this same hippie rock type song that's playing with this guitar. And I was watching Psych, the show Psych, and it kills me because I can't remember what episode I saw it in, and I really should have noted it. But there's an episode where Sean and Gus.
Massive Psych fan.
I'm a big Psych fan. I'm real excited. They're coming out with another movie, by the way. I've been keeping a close eye on that. I love Psych. Such a good show. I was so upset when they ended that, but I'm glad that they've been making movies because that kind of at least makes up for it, that you still get this storyline. Because I feel like I'm going to go on another side tangent if I bring it up, but Burn Notice is another show. Like USA was killing it for a while there.
Another favorite of Kayla's, like...
Burn Notice.
Yes.
I mean, you probably saw back when I was in college, like my friend John, he and I were big into Burn Notice. We had another friend too, and we would watch it religiously every week. I bought a pair of the same Oliver Peoples sunglasses that he would wear on the show because the sunglasses were like a big thing. But USA was killing it with shows for a while. They had Burn Notice, they had Suits, they had White Collar, they had Royal Pains. They had Psych.
I have chills with you bringing these up. Like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Great shows. And a lot of them had really great soundtracks as well. But with Psych, one of the episodes, and if I come across it again, I'm going to have to remember what the name of it is because I'm in a group on Facebook. There's an Adam 12 fans group, and I join it just because it's a lot of people who grew up in that era and a lot of people who became police officers because of watching that show. And so you often get a lot of like interesting historical information about that time period out of those people. But there was a guy that actually recorded the hippie rock song. Like he played all the instruments and he did his own cover of it. And there was this episode of Psych where Sean and Gus are in a bar. That's all I remember about it. They're in a bar and there's this music playing in the background of the bar. And it is a modern version of the song that was played in every episode of Adam 12 in the first season, like at parties and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm sitting there listening to it. Now, the first time I saw that episode of Psych, I didn't put two and two together because I hadn't really been watching Adam 12. Now I've been watching a lot of Adam 12 because it's on MeTV every night, every weeknight at 5:00. And after I'd watched it, they did a marathon last year of Psych episodes at the beginning of the quarantine. And they had the different cast members were all on, I assume, Zoom or something like that. And they would talk about some of the episodes and just share stories and stuff. And I watched that. And that's when I saw that episode again. And I was like, wait a minute. And I hit rewind and I listened to the song again. And I'm like, that is the same exact song that they used in the whole first season of Adam 12 in all of their party and bar scenes. But it's a modernized version of it. And it kills me because I can't remember what episode it was. And I was talking to somebody actually also on YouTube on a video that was about that song. And I was like, there's an episode of Psych that has a modern version of it. And I can't remember what the episode was. And I'd have to watch them all probably to find it. Cause I'm like, I start Googling Sean and Gus Psych bar scenes and stuff, thinking maybe there's a clip of it somewhere that would, I can just find that. And I can't find it anywhere. Wow. So I'd have to watch the series again to be able to find it. But I almost fell out of my chair when I realized I'm like, that's the same music. And it's not a song that you would find on Spotify or something, because it's not probably done by any band that anybody would know. It's just this song that plays in the background of just about every episode of season 1. And like, there are a lot of people that were knocking it. Like, people love that guy's cover of it, but they're like, oh, that song is so annoying. What could they not, like, did they not have a budget to get other songs to be able to have other songs play? Me, I get a chuckle every time I hear that come on, because it's the same song every time. And it's not really like a raging party song, but they play it in those types of situations on the show. So it's a little bit humorous too. But it's odd how there are certain songs to me that you can hear on a show or in a commercial or something, they stick with you. And I think the song that was used in that Lens Crafters commercial was Walking on the Sun.
Oh, okay.
I think that might have been it. So again, I talked about Walking on the Sun a while, like a few episodes back, and I didn't hear it on that commercial. I heard it on Sirius XM, but then I saw the commercial and I'm like, oh, that's a song I heard on Sirius XM. So there's a lot of that. I don't know, that the stuff I tend to hear on shows and stuff is necessarily like it's not exotic in the sense of like what you were talking about with the more Eastern vibe of the music, the soundtrack for that cartoon. But I often find new songs that I wouldn't have necessarily heard by hearing them on a commercial or hearing them on a TV show. And like, to the point that I actually have on Spotify, I have a couple of Suits soundtracks because there are people that compiled soundtracks from all the different seasons. And
that's awesome.
There's a lot, like, they had really good music on that show.
They had a great variety. That's how you know a show is good, because that's like a show that's trying to, really relate to a wide variety of an audience. So that's, they had some quality songs. Suits.
They did. Suits. And it was kind of all over the place too, depending. Like, there was a lot of kind of alt stuff, but then you had Harvey, who was one of the main characters. If you've never watched the show, he's a lawyer. In his office, he's got a record player and a huge collection of records, and he tended to listen to a lot of blues and jazz records. So there would be a lot of times where if they were showing him in his office and he was listening to a record, you'd hear a song. It was a song by a known artist that's playing in the background. And I found a lot of really interesting stuff. Like actually one of my favorite songs that they used on that show was Wish You Were Here by Lee Fields and the Expressions.
Yes.
And that introduced me to Lee Fields and the Expressions. And he's got a lot of other really great songs. So it's not even just hearing the songs on the show, but it also introduces you to those other artists and to other songs that you maybe wouldn't have otherwise known about or listened to. And there was a lot of that with that show in particular. I mean, I can only really think of one other show that I felt was so music driven with well-known music. And that was a show that I think was only on for a season or two. It was called Memphis Beat. And I forget what channel that was on. I'm gonna have to look it up. It was the guy from My Name Is Earl.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it took place in Memphis. So there was a lot of blues music in that soundtrack. So I loved it because I love blues. It was on for 1 year. And it was about a character, Dwight Hendricks. He was a quirky Memphis police detective and he had a passion for blues music. I think he was supposed to be a musician as well. So there were a lot of like him playing in bars and stuff, but the soundtrack for that show was really awesome because it was
amazing
good blues music. So Jason Lee was the actor and he was in My Name Is Earl.
Oh, okay.
Very different role from My Name Is Earl.
Yeah. Wow. I'm almost ashamed to say it, but I did watch it. On Netflix, they have books turned into series, Bridgerton.
Okay.
And I watched the first season. And what I will say about this, if we're just going to stick to the music and we're not going to talk about anything else, because I have a lot to say on that. But they did classical covers of pop songs. And I thought this was really interesting because there are a couple of songs that I cannot stand listening on the radio. But then they did a classical cover in it, and I was like, this works.
Yeah.
So we're talking like Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, like that face is correct. And how they introduced it, I mean, it fits the moment because it's supposed to be during a certain period in time in England. So it makes sense as to why they would have classical choices, but to put the modern music with the classical cover was a nice twist. And I found myself enjoying that version way more. Yeah. Because, if you're listening to the radio nowadays with pop songs, chances are you're going to hear the same song like 80 times and then immediately get sick of it day one. Whereas this was like, well done. I don't know. I forgot the name of who is responsible for the covers, but they did a good job kind of sneaking it in there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how that happens because I've had situations like that too, where I've heard a cover of a song that I'm like,
I would never
listen to this, but it's quite good
Taylor
here.
Swift, and I know she's popular, great, fantastic, catchy tunes. And the fact that I was like, I know what the song is, and I was like, oh my gosh. But then I was like, wait, I think it's, you know what? I just had an epiphany. It's because I'm not hearing her voice. That may be it.
That would probably have a lot to do with it, to be totally honest.
To the general population who adores Taylor Swift, I think she is talented. Just not for me sometimes. That's all. Yeah. That's all. But these covers, now, if you watch the show, you do that on your own time. I would suggest if you're not interested in so, I'm sure you'll be able to find and listen to a couple of these covers, but they did a great job.
It's funny that you bring that up because shocker, here it comes. I'm going to tie it in. So for those of you who don't know, today we're filming this obviously a few weeks ahead of when it's going to drop, but today is the 30th anniversary of Metallica's Black Album.
Yes, it is. And you can download that on iTunes, buddy.
And they have a compilation. There are 53 artists that did covers of songs off the Black Album, and Sirius XM right now has a mandatory Metallica station in celebration of the 30th anniversary of the Black Album. And they've been playing obviously other Metallica stuff. And then they have like the guys from the band have picked out some songs from other bands that influence them or other bands that they're listening to right now. But they're also playing some of these covers from this up. Well, it's being released today, the release of the anniversary box set of the Black Album. And I heard a cover the other night. I was driving home from Maine, and an artist I've never heard of before, Kamasi Washington, a jazz vocalist, doing My Friend of Misery. And let me tell you, if I hadn't seen on the display of the radio that this was supposed to be My Friend of Misery, I probably wouldn't have even realized it unless I was really paying attention to the lyrics, because it sounded nothing like the original song. And it was a jazz rendition of it, which is so far in the other direction of what you would probably typically think of if you were listening to a Metallica song. But they've had all of these really interesting selection of artists, interesting covers of the songs. Was it Juanes? They had a cover of, I think it was Enter Sandman. Yes, Enter Sandman with Juanes, who's like a Latin artist. And that was really different. I haven't heard most of these. I just pulled up a list of who the artists are and what songs they covered. Nothing Else Matters. Apparently, Miley Cyrus did a cover of that with Watt, Elton John, Yo-Yo Ma, Robert Trujillo, and Chad Smith.
Really?
Talk about an interesting combo.
That's an interesting group, yeah.
Yeah. I might have to listen to that for no other reason than I'm curious, but normally if I saw Miley Cyrus anywhere next to Metallica, I'd be like, yeah, no, we're good.
Right. Huh.
I mean, she did do...
Again, another talented artist, just unexpected.
True. Darius Rucker doing Nothing Else Matters. Like right. That's got to be borderline country.
Right. Huh.
Yeah, there's a really interesting list of artists that did covers for this anniversary box set, and a lot of people that I've not heard of, but also a lot of people that I'm kind of like, that's not an artist that I would ever listen to or that I would ever imagine doing a Metallica cover. So I'm really curious about some of these, but I was really, that Kamasi Washington cover of My Friend of Misery was really good. Just, I probably wouldn't have known that that's the song that she was doing. Yeah. If I didn't see that was the song she was doing, because it wasn't like the instrumentation really followed any of the original the original melody and sound that was part of the original version of that song. So if you haven't heard it, definitely go give it a listen, because it's different. It's very different. But I'm very curious to listen to some of the other covers that are on here, especially after seeing who some of the artists are, because I hadn't actually gone and looked yet. And I'm ashamed to admit, because I know they've been posting preview clips on their social media of some of these, and I haven't had a chance to even listen to most of them yet, because I don't spend a ton of time on social media these days. Yeah. But yeah, so, talk about things that are a little bit like, this isn't something I would normally listen to, but as a cover of this artist, I would listen to this, because this is good.
Unexpected. So, you never.
Yes.
That's the beautiful part of music.
It is. It
is. With the ears of another artist and how they interpret it can lead to something that intrigues you.
It is very interesting. I mean, and then also, like, the other thing I was thinking about the other night too is just thinking about, like, when you've got a band like Metallica that are very big name, they've been around for a long time, like, just trying to imagine how they came up with some of these songs. Because if you listen to, because that was the other thing they were playing, is some of the demos of some of the songs, and you listen to the demos and they sound like there's a lot of similarities between the studio version, But then there's a lot of stuff that really changes or evolves, or like I can't remember which song it was they were playing a demo from the other night, but I think it might have been Nothing Else Matters. And James had all of the lyrics except for like the chorus. So on the chorus, he's known for like na 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 na, and like just not actually having words for it, but he kind of like hums along the rhythm and the notes that he would use there. And to think about like the process of how they come up with these things and how it becomes such a big hit. Like to me, that's just something I really have a hard time wrapping my mind around.
Right.
The songwriting process, I guess. Cause like I can noodle around and improvise a solo or whatever, but I just can't imagine. Right. Like the level of talent and skill that it takes to write a song that's original, that's not like, we talked a few weeks ago when I was on with Matt and Ted, we talked about cover songs and like, what point is a cover not a cover? Like
that's interesting.
Artists sampling music and stuff and then calling it their song. Like I already can't remember who the artist was that sampled Crazy Train. I think it was a rapper, and this was a couple of years ago.
It was no, not T-Pain. I'm sorry, it's Lil Jon.
Yes,
because they did Crazy Train for Let's Go. Like I think yes.
I don't know if it was it was the same song, because I remember social media was.
You can get it. Let me know.
Social media was blowing up. People were like, "Oh, how nice of them to use this song from this Aussie guy," and it's like, whoa.
First of all,
like, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
First of all, that entire like instrumental in that song is Crazy Train, which was written in the 80s. Ozzy's kind of a big name dude. He's been around for a while now. Like, what rock are you people been living under? And so we had a bit of a conversation about, like at what point is it not really an original song because they're sampling it, or they're like, there's some songs they're just kind of blatant ripoffs of the guitar parts, or like think Led Zeppelin and Stairway to Heaven, and the accusations that they ripped that off from another band that's lesser known. But then like to think about an artist like, Metallica, where they've written all these songs that are really big hits, like insanely popular albums, and to think about what went into those and to hear the demos and hear like they pretty much had it in the demo, but then they just fine tune some things and they, hash out the rest of the lyrics that they haven't figured out. But it's like, where does that all come from? Because to me, I can't even begin to kind of wrap my head around, and this may sound kind of crazy, but I can't wrap my head around the concept of writing a song like that, writing a major hit like that. Like, where does that come from is just insane to me. So, that was another thought that kind of came into my mind when I was listening to some of these demos that they were playing. But, covers are definitely interesting. And I mean, again, I got a whole playlist of covers too that are just like kind of all over the place. Some of them are covers that they don't sound anything like, they're totally different genre from the original song. And then some of them, like Weezer did a whole album of covers. And if you ask me, they sound kind of the same.
One from a long time ago. That group, was it Alien Ant Farm, did Smooth Criminal?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is that, again, it's there. You have to wrap your head around the fact that there's a group of people who probably would have never heard the original had it not been for the cover or this really interesting interpretation. So, crotchety people like us can be like, wow.
Right.
If you think that's good.
Right.
Little boys and girls, if you think, if you think, Let's Go, and it's Trick Daddy and Lil Jon. If you think Let's Go is great, then you're really going to like Crazy Train.
Right. Right. It boggled my mind at the time because social media was blowing up and they were all like, oh, how great of them to use a track from this Aussie guy and get him some exposure. And it's like,
like maybe like
wow.
exposure to you, sure. Like
True.
there could be a solid discussion for like, you know, the assumption that this music space is meant for a type of person. But it's not, it's meant for everybody. So if this is what it took for you to come on over, great.
True. I mean, like,
but
so
give Ozzy his credit. Like, that's what we're saying. Like,
for sure. Like,
this group did the work.
Right.
And then
he's been around a while. That song has been around a while. That's not new.
yeah, that's what it is. It's like, this is not new.
Right. I did hear, because I was listening to Sirius XM Real Jazz a few weeks ago, and I heard Joey DiFrancesco did a cover of Thriller, which is really cool as a jazz cover. Again, probably wouldn't have heard it if I hadn't been listening for that station, but I heard it and immediately I was like, wait a minute, I know this song. This is something else I've heard. It's just slightly different enough that you're like, it's a little out of place, but you're like, I feel like I've heard this before. And then you're like, oh, it's Thriller. Okay, there we go. Yes. But yeah, no, I would agree. And we had discussed this on the episode where we talked about covers and whatnot, and had kind of like, you know, it's at a certain point, covers and sampling do introduce those songs to an audience that may not have been familiar with those songs, whether it's a different genre than what the original song was, or it's an older song and now you're getting that newer generation. So, you know, for sure, it's not a bad thing that they sampled Crazy Train for that. It's just, it's funny when people are like,
oh yeah, it's funny when these young bloods out here are like, oh, look at that. And then us, and I'm sure even, you know, the generation above us is like, they already have some feelings when it comes to music. So let's not
for sure. For sure. Definitely.
Oh man. I was also, I was just looking because I was like, I had to go through like the Rolodex of my music. And something that I didn't realize I had was the entire soundtrack to the movie Man of Steel. And it's by Hans Zimmer, who's like this amazing like cinematic composer.
Okay.
And like these tracks again are outstanding. Heavy on the percussion is for the one that I listen to the most. And I had to remember that I think I watched like the behind the scenes, and he got like all these great drummers like basically into a space, which is something you really don't do when you're composing music. Usually it's like a couple of drummers, you know what I mean? With like sets. He had like 12 drummers and their sets. Yeah. And it was like the sickest jam session that they had. And it's like, we're just going to groove. And to see how that transformed into one of the more impactful tracks, I suppose. I was like, this is what I listen to this all the time. Like, why? I don't know. I could be cleaning the house and vacuuming, but I wouldn't have been exposed to Hans Zimmer as a composer. And to find that he is responsible for so much music, like he's composed music for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay. Yep.
I was like, and to think
I knew
that, you know,
the name.
Yes, we played some music from that. So that's been Sherlock Holmes, like a whole bunch of little tunes that we're familiar with. Even if you just like listen to the trailers, he's probably responsible for some good ones.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other area.
That's a whole nother world.
Yeah. I find myself sometimes listening to stuff that I'm like, if other people knew I was listening to this, they'd probably think it was weird just because it's like a soundtrack to something, or like, you know, I've said it before. I got a whole playlist of video game music, and some of that stuff is covers or I'm gonna have
to send you the soundtrack for a game that I've for Ori, it's called.
Okay.
And Ori is a super popular game. There's Ori and the Blind Forest, and then the Will of the Wisps. Both of them have outstanding music. Outstanding music. Like I think they just released the soundtrack that you can download now. That's how amazing, which is unheard of for a game. You can't always do that, but they have it for this game.
Right.
I'll send it to you. You will appreciate it. And also, I'll definitely highlight one of the songs because it's one of the areas where you don't realize like mess just got real in this game.
Oh, really?
So, it's like the song of my anxiety now.
Oh, geez.
But it's beautiful. It's not like a bad song. It's a beautiful song. But every time I listen to it, I just think about my first time playing it and how my hands are about to fall apart.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, how this whole topic started was talking about video games and hearing a song. Well, yeah, and because it was interesting because Paul pulled up that video of those guys playing, and then of course, like I immediately get sucked into what kind of guitar has he got there, and the guy's got an 8-string guitar, and I'm trying to count how many strings he's got, and he doesn't stand still long enough, so it's really hard to see it. And then eventually they get a shot where you can see all the tuning pegs, and I'm like, aha, 8 strings, and there's no bass player, but they have a keyboard player and a drummer, and then there's obviously no vocalist because it's video game music, and I don't feel like there's probably a lot of video game soundtracks that have vocals, but maybe
in The Witcher, in the Witcher series, but I say that lightly. So a lot of like,
like choir type stuff. Yeah.
Someone's legit kind of laugh at me now, but it's fine. Well, yes, but you are correct. It's very rare for those tracks to have actual like vocals.
Right. Which is, all the more reason that it's kind of OC Remix is a site I've talked about in the video game episodes, and people basically just do covers and remixes of different video game soundtracks. And there are few that people add lyrics to, which I always find to be a little bit interesting because there were obviously no lyrics to those songs in the games. You're talking about an 8 or a 16-bit video game. There's no vocals there. And then to hear a song where somebody's put vocals to it, I always find that interesting too. Like that somebody had the creativity to come up with lyrics to go with that song.
That is awesome.
Lyrics. So, but I don't, and I mean, you could speak to that. You're more qualified to speak on that than I am because I don't play a lot of newer video games. So I can't really say if newer games have vocals, but I just assume that there's probably not.
No, and it's because there's a lot of, I would imagine it's because of the dialogue that usually happens in games now, is that in order for you to like focus on either verbal or like written out dialogue, you can't have like someone singing in the background because it'll kind of take away. It's difficult to do both. But I'm pretty sure very rare. I'd have to really think about it, but I know The Witcher off the top of my head only because I was replaying The Witcher 3 in preparation for fall times. And I was like, every time you do something, I hear this chick again. So that's about it. That's really it. But it would be interesting. I would love somebody to do, to like produce lyrics for some of these, for big brands. Like we were talking earlier about how Metroid Dread is coming out soon, and I'm super excited because that is like done right, a lot of heavy metal, and I would love somebody to just like go in on on creating some lyrics. And I've heard some amazing covers, and Metroid is just a really beloved franchise, and it's been years. It's been like over a decade since we've gotten a new one, like a one that's like, I really want to play. So I'm excited. If I'm not around for a while, it's because I'm putting in hard time.
Okay. All right. We won't be seeing Quicia on the show for a bit because she'll be busy playing video games in the evenings after work.
Yeah, I'll definitely forward you like a couple of really great covers, but Metroid is quality.
Okay. Awesome. I'm always I may not have time to play the game, but I'm always interested in hearing
Yeah.
good video
Listen
game
to it.
soundtracks.
Right.
Because there's a lot of good stuff out there. And most of what I'm familiar with is older stuff, but I know there's a lot of good new stuff too, especially thanks to Paul pulling up that soundtrack or that song from Doom. And then he went and showed me some clip of all these gory scenes where there's more of the music. And I'm like, all right, I could see without the gory scenes, I could see myself listening to just the music in this game, because this is really cool music. And it's definitely, like, I think Ted talked about Doom in some of the video game episodes. Yes. And I can see why now, because that music is like, that's definitely right up his alley. So it's always like, give me a good video game song, I'll definitely give it a listen. So no question about that. But I don't know, I didn't actually pay attention to what time we started, but I feel like we're going to be coming up on an hour really soon here. So I don't know if we want to kind of shift gears and do our song of the week picks. I don't know if
sure.
Okay.
There are no rules here.
No. We're winging it around here on these last few shows.
Friday.
Two of us have done.
The only plan I have is to put in a movie and drink. Like, that's
okay.
That is it.
There you go. So we'll get this done with so you can get your Friday night started. So as a reminder, if you're new to the show, or maybe you've been listening for a while and you still need the weekly reminder, we have a Spotify Song of the Week playlist. We put all of our picks in their entirety into that playlist, and we put the link in the description of every episode. And if you're watching the video version, we also put a QR code or a scan code on the screen. And all you have to do is hold up your phone or mobile device to that scan code with Spotify open and tap on the little camera icon in the search bar, and it will take you directly to our playlist. And we've got a lot of songs in that playlist at this point. I don't even know what we're up to at this point, because I haven't really looked in a while, and I think I actually need to put some of our previous picks into the playlist because I forgot to do that last weekend. But we're up to 154 songs as of recording this show, and that equates to just under 11 hours worth of music. So we got all the music you could possibly need to get through a work day, and probably if you live in the Boston area or someplace with bad traffic, a commute to and from work. On that note, my song of the week pick is I think it does kind of fit into the topic of conversation that we've had for this episode.
Songs from unexpected places.
Yes, because I actually heard this one on a TikTok video, and I was like, oh, this has got some cool guitar. The song, and I'm going to have to censor it for the people watching this on public access. The song is Love is a Bitch by 2 Feet. It's the title track off their 2017 album. And again, this is another one of those songs, and I mentioned this on a previous show, that I feel like they're these songs, they've been out for 4, 5, 6 years, and I'm just now discovering them. And it's like, well, where has this song been for the last 4 years or whatever? And this is one of those songs. This song came out in 2017, and I just recently discovered it. And it's got some fantastic bluesy guitar, which I found when I went to kind of find out more about 2 Feet, because I've heard some of their other songs before, and their other songs are also very bluesy. The band is, I don't know if it even technically is a band. It's a singer-songwriter. His name is Zachary William Bill Dess. And apparently he used to play in local jazz and blues ensembles before he formed this group. So now it all makes a lot more sense as to where those blues roots come from in the songs, but it's a very interesting, because it's not blues in the sense of, like, if you were to listen to B.B. King or any of those well-known blues artists, it's considered alt indie, but it's a mix of blues with a little bit of rock and some more kind of modern alt pop. I don't know how to really, I don't know what genre you would really kind of fit it into, but there's a lot of blues. They have some other well-known tracks. I Feel Like I'm Drowning, I think, was one of the first ones I heard by them. And they have another track called You. Both of them I've heard on Sirius XM's Alt Nation. And so I had heard of this group, but I had not heard this particular song. And it's just this song is really, really good. I've said it before, I love good blues guitar. This has good blues guitar with a mix of more modern elements. And I would highly recommend checking out any of their stuff, but definitely give this song, and I'm going to have to censor one more time, Love is a Bitch by 2 Feet. Give it a listen because it's really an excellent song. So that's going to be my pick of the week. Found it on TikTok through video and
TikTok
added it to my playlist.
My mind is blown because I never thought I'd hear the day where Kayla said, I found it on TikTok. I'm just saying.
There you go. That was a good one on TikTok. It was a good one.
That's awesome.
There's some annoying stuff on TikTok. This was not the annoying category for me.
I'm not on TikTok. I think I'm going to hold out. I can't.
I'm on it for distorted opinions, but I've debated on making a personal one because I see people doing some cool and creative stuff. And I'm like, it'd be like to get the creative juices flowing. It'd be fun to do some, but then it's like, or I could just edit a video and put that on Instagram and not really care whether a million people see it, because that's not really my goal here. Although I guess you get enough views and you monetize. But
let us know what you think.
Should
Kayla get a TikTok?
Oh yeah, let us know. Leave us. We'll give you the spots to get a hold of us at the end of the show.
Or
here.
How about if we hit our subscriber goal, Kayla has to have a TikTok.
Okay, 100 subscribers on YouTube. Go search for Distorted Opinions on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. We'll see if we can get to it. If so, I'll consider a TikTok.
So hard.
Oh boy.
Look what I started.
There you have it.
So my pick of the week, if we're talking about, being exposed to something in an unexpected place, though a common place, unexpected for me, I was never somebody that used to like sit in coffee shops and chill out until I was living in the city. And I was living in Cambridge and I was by this coffee house literally on the corner. And it was just one of those coffee houses where you just go to like people watch and like get out of your space because you're probably like, house full of people and I just need to step away and, have a moment. And I was in this coffee shop. It couldn't be more picture perfect. I mean, when you're talking about like slightly rainy outside, I'm sipping on a London fog. I'm not this pretentious. It just so happened this way. And the song that came on where I was like, what is this? Like my phone was Cosmic Love by Florence and the Machine.
Okay.
Yeah, so
they've got some good stuff.
Got some really good stuff. But I remember that like opened the floodgates for me to be a huge fan. It was that song. And all of a sudden I'm like, I am in. Like, I will see her when she is here. Like, gotta never disappointed. So that's one of my all-time favorites. And every now and then I have it cycle through a playlist, whether I'm driving or something like that. And I just think about that day, about how I was sitting in the corner of this coffee shop in Cambridge. Again, I am not a pretentious person, I swear, but sipping on a bloody London fog. And then this song comes on. I'm like, oh, what is this?
I'm glad I'm not the only one that walks around. I walk around with SoundHound on my phone and I'll often like, ooh, this is a good song. What is this? And I'll pull up SoundHound and I've probably got like 2,000 songs in my SoundHound playlist because it automatically adds them to Spotify. And I probably have not listened to some of the songs that are in there in a very long time because it's such a huge...
It's a huge
1,600
list,
songs. It's 121 hours and 32 minutes worth of music just from stuff that I found in SoundHound. And some stuff that I've searched for doesn't exist on Spotify or SoundHound can't identify it. So that doesn't even include the stuff that I've wanted to identify and I haven't been able to. But that's
now that I look at it, I didn't realize that I've done this so many times in my life. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. They're wow. Yeah. Oh man. We could come back to this.
Yeah, we could put next episode. Let's just talk about SoundHound.
Yeah.
We can continue this because a lot of these probably came from unexpected places when
Holy
you
crap.
heard them.
Yeah. Like I remember one of these was in a grocery store, not the one that I worked at previously in my life, but another one. And I vividly remember like finding like the stereo and like being like, ah! Because there's so much ambient noise in the store. Right. So I had to I literally like put my basket down and ran to find like the closest speaker.
Oh, that's funny. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I really am, because I've been known to be in the grocery store or something and just slyly try to pull out my phone and open up SoundHound and not make it real obvious that that's what I'm doing, because I feel like again that'd be something that people would consider to be weird. But I think we should definitely slate the next episode we do together will be a continuation of finding music in bizarre places, and we should just go through our SoundHound Spotify playlist and be like, oh yeah, I remember where I heard that one. And there's a lot of stuff in here. You'd probably be surprised I got Billie Eilish songs, probably a couple of them in here.
She is a great artist. My mom, of all people, my mom is like a huge fan of, like, in her mind, music from the 60s, 70s and gospel music are the only thing that exists. She saw Billie Eilish perform, I think it was for like the inauguration. She did some like live concert thing. And my mom was like, who is this? She's so good. And I was
say what now?
Again, 60s, 70s gospel. Like, this is what my mother listens to. And she's sitting here being like, oh, I like her. Like, oh my goodness. Okay. Well,
that's like my mom on the rare occasion that she hears some rock style song and she's like, oh, this is actually not bad. And she's a country music fan and a 60s and 70s type person as well. So yeah, I can fully relate on that level of like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, this is out of left field, but all right, okay, we'll work with it. Oh yeah, we'll come back to this. Definitely.
Yes, we're going to circle around. As eclectic as the Distorted Opinion Song of the Week playlist is, my Spotify SoundHound playlist, far more eclectic.
Oh, I can't wait.
Far more. Yeah, I'm going to make a note. This is going to be our next show. We're going to talk about our SoundHound playlist for sure. So your pick for this week, though, because I kind of derailed that a little bit, was Cosmic Love by Florence and the Machine.
Yes.
All righty. Awesome.
Not even derailing, just a great story and segue. It was fantastic.
There we go. And I don't know if I've heard that one, so I'm going to have to give it a listen. I've definitely heard Florence and the Machine, but I don't know if I know that song. So obviously I'm going to hear it when I edit this show together, as I always say when somebody's like, oh, here's a song. And I'm like, oh, I've never heard that. I'm going to have to listen to it. And I'm going to listen to it because I'm going to have to go pull it for the show.
Choice.
There's no options here. It's happening. Awesome. Well, we've got a topic for the next time the two of us get together again, which is good. And on that note, if you would like to see me create a TikTok account, or perhaps you would like to give us a suggestion for a future show, or maybe you'd like to be a guest on a show, or if you're a local artist and you've got a song that you'd like us to listen to and review and talk about on the show, get in touch with us and let us know. And there's a few ways you can do that. You can leave us a voicemail by going to our Anchor page at anchor.fm/distortedopinions. You can also find links to our social media platforms, as well as a partial list of the places the show is available in audio only format. But you can also just search for Distorted Opinions on your favorite podcast platform. You'll probably find us there. Same thing goes for our YouTube channel. If you go over to YouTube and search for Distorted Opinions, you'll find us there. I'm not going to list off a URL because it's a big ugly URL right now, but maybe we can get to that 100 subscribers if y'all really want to see me create a TikTok that badly.
Yes.
And we'll get to those 100 subscribers. And by the way, Distorted Opinions, we do have a TikTok, so you can find us on there as well. Although, as I was telling Quicia before we started the show, I've been not so great about posting social media promos for the shows. So we're still doing them. If you're listening to us and you've been listening despite the fact that I haven't been promoting the show on social media, thank you for continuing to join us every week. So you can find our YouTube channel. You can find us on social media. You can find us over on Anchor, anchor.fm/distortedopinions. You can also send us an email. distortedopinionshow@gmail.com. And we will respond pretty much to any method that you choose to get a hold of us. You can comment on our social media posts, send us a message, whatever you want to do. But with that, again, thank you if you've been joining us every week, and let your friends know if you enjoyed the conversation here. Tell them to give us a listen or give us a watch over on YouTube. And thank you, Quicia, for joining me again this week.
You're welcome.
I feel like we come into this and it's always like, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about. And then we talk for a bit. And it's like, all right, I think we just figured out what we're going to talk about. I think we've already got our next one, so we don't even have to worry about what we're going to talk about the next time. And with that, we hope you'll join us again next week for an all new episode. We'll see you then.
Bye.